Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle Me. In the series year 2026 Rick Miracle Report, this is number 43. Lordy. January, February, March, April, May. We're in our 5th month. And I'm up to 43 of these year reviews. It's been a busy year with activity. Almost a little dizzying. If you try to think about it all, just make you dizzy. If you really take it seriously, it'll make you a little queasy. A lot of stuff happening, and a lot of people don't see it. So one little thing leads to another, and I decided to go take a look at something I've been avoiding. The Jeffrey Epstein released files. Thought I'd investigate some of these accusations and some of the evidence for myself. It's quite amazing, actually. A lot of people have been looking at it and have been writing up essays, assessments, reports, whatever you want to call it. This particular article here is May 8th, 2026, with Jeffrey Epstein, and we'll get to that in a second. Anyways, this is at the Epstein Wiki. So they've taken the files, and I guess some organizations downloaded them to their own site and did a little bit of work on the filtering capabilities. And then they tried some of those filtered searches. And again, as I said, a lot of people have been coming up with some conclusions and writing essays. So let's talk about it a little bit. I know you think you got better things to think about or talk about, but I really don't think so. Because this topic involves everything. Everything. It's way bigger than you can imagine. It's connected to so many other episodes besides the Epstein episodes, to people who have been doing things like this for the past at least 300 years. Even in the late 1700s and early 1800s, remember the United States declared independence in 1776. So even that episode, up until 25 years into 1800, a lot of shenanigans were going on with the powerful elite trying to control the U.S. money and U.S. politicians, particularly the Rothschilds family, who's mentioned around 12,000 times in the Jeffrey Epstein files. And with a recent book review I just did, I've been continuing reading that book, getting ready to make another video. And to be able to control other countries, particularly the USA, after it declared independence, and of course before that, which is why they had the Tea Party and broke away over taxation, trying to control and make a profit and rule the country because they control the money. So prior to 1776, of course, they had to get into Britain again And France, after being exiled from Europe for 300 years, banishment, massacred, prosecuted, they were moved into Poland, down to Ukraine, Georgia, Bulgaria, Romania, where after 200 years they took over that corridor called the Pale of Settlement. And they were doing such atrocious things that the leadership on the eastern side, Russia, whatever it was called back then, and the western side, the German countries, weirdly called Prussia. Prussia on the west, Russia on the right. And I don't want to confuse that with the Empire of Persia, Iran, etc., etc. So it's like a domino. They're banished for 300 years, apparently for good reason, because of the atrocious things they were doing before that. They were kicked out of the Middle East, Jerusalem, 2,000 years ago. A little less than 2,000. I think it was 70 years after the killing of Jesus Christ, that the Romans had to go there and disperse them and make a law that they couldn't live there. 2,000 years ago. And wherever they went, they were causing a lot of atrocious activities, and were run out of 109 different countries in the past 2,000 years. This is all documented. These are facts. This is not anti-Semitism, whatever that even is. Because I'm trying to stop the killing of the Arabs, and the Arabs are Semites. How would that make any of us an anti-Semite if we want to defend the Arabs from the people who have been exiled and banished in many different places? 300 years, the entire continent of Europe. Pale of Settlement, 200 years before taking it over, causing police action on the eastern side and on the western side, because the people in the middle, in nice sizable territory, were being atrociously, that's the only word I can think of, just horribly treated. So what's that got to do with the Epstein files? Actually, everything. Same folks, same religion. Epstein, get it? His name, Jeffrey. Same group. Obvious, well connected to the Rothschilds. He worked for them. And what are they doing now? What did they do during the, after 1776? Actually murdering several U.S. presidents because they couldn't control the U.S. money. Actually murdering them. I've been reading the book. And so I think about this and I go, Lordy, Lordy. 300 years, without a doubt, factual information. These people have been doing horrible things, like what they did at Jeffrey Epstein's island, to people for the past 2,000 years, when they can get away with it until they are stopped. Let me repeat that. Until they are stopped. Do I need to repeat it again? They do it again and again and again. It's part of their religion, the synagogue of Satan. And they keep on doing it until they are stopped. All right. I don't like to be all talk. I want to show you some evidence. So I was reading this particular report by Resistance Kitty. Apparently one of the essay writers at the Epstein Wiki. You can look it up. So here we go. Epstein's suicide note chaos. So did he commit suicide or did he not? And does it really matter? Royal connections, royal family connections, intelligence questions explode across the Epstein files. Today's Epstein Wiki News update reads like a normal news cycle, reads less like a normal news cycle, and more like somebody kicked open a locked archive room and let years of buried scandals spill onto the floor at once. So once you started poking into the millions of documents, pages, you find so many connections to the things I was just telling you. New reporting surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's alleged suicide note is dividing journalists, investigators, and the public after linguistic analysis suggested the note may actually be authentic. So if you were going to go into a prison and create a suicide note and leave it there after you killed him, don't you think you would do a little bit of original research and put some words in that note so that people would believe it's Jeffrey Epstein? Now, you use some of the words that Jeffrey Epstein has used in the past. So people could say, well, see, that had to be his suicide note. Those are phrases he used in the past. Then there's another problem. Apparently, the actual suicide note kind of mysteriously misplaced, misfiled, mishandled. So there's also a suspicion that because the people weren't buying the suicide story, that the actual note was altered. You see what I'm saying? It boggles the mind. They take these emergency steps to try to correct their previous mistakes, and so they go, well, let's just alter the note and come up with a linguistic investigation by some people who do word analysis, and so we can see if it's actually an authentic report. And then so they do that, and then people go back and check the track record of the suicide note itself and find out it was misfiled, mishandled, and likely altered. They're going to great lengths to try to convince us that you can't pay attention. Nothing that you're learning from the news is the truth. They want you to not believe anything, to go about your business, to be too confused. At the same time, fresh investigations tied to the Zero Ranch. So he had this ranch in New Mexico, which apparently a lot of diabolical things were going on there. Who could have guessed that? Involving British intelligence coordination, elite financial networks, royal charities, nonprofit funding pipelines are exposing just how massive and interconnected the Epstein ecosystem truly became. Meanwhile, Epstein Wiki and Epstein Data, so apparently there's another source you can find, Epstein Data. You can just search Epstein Data. Launched a major new reverse image search tool at stopping a flood of fake Epstein photos. So now they want you to not believe any photos that you see with your own eyes. Because so what they probably did is they said, we got to get people to question the photos. So let's create some fake photos and put that into the system. and let's expose them as fake photos. So now we have to question everything. So they would come up with this major new reverse image search tool aimed at stopping the flood of fake Epstein photos, poisoning online research spaces. And let's not forget, they redacted all the Epstein documents also. They blacked out lots of stuff. So they don't want you to believe even the images, the pictures you see. And they want you to believe that his suicide note is real, but then the storage and handling of that note itself comes into question. The deeper these investigations go, the harder it becomes for institutions to keep pretending this scandal was isolated, accidental, or fully understood years ago. And again, the more you dig into this and the more you make the connections, Jeffrey Epstein is just another chapter in a big, huge book of these activities by the same people, including murdering presidents in the United States in the 17 and 1800s. Presidents. Not just 1, 2, or 3 or 4. Presidents and other people. Key developments. The alleged Epstein suicide note may be authentic. At the same time, researchers continue raising concerns about missing records, contradictory evidence trails, prison failures, chain of custody questions tied to the document's delayed release. Wow, once people start not believing that the linguistic research, who says, oh yeah, look, these are phrases he used in the past, you got some reporter going and saying, well, who had control of that note? Where did that note come from? Has the note been altered? Of course, none of these questions will be allowed, but when they did some tracking, they did say there were some anomalies. The DOJ record handling questions continue growing. Attorney Ann Mitchell published findings alleging that the Department of Justice tracking records connected to the Epstein-related prison documents may have been reassigned or altered within the EFTA index files. You see what I'm saying? And then, of course, let's not forget they want you not to believe the photos, so they got this reverse imaging thing you can run a photo through that should tell you if it's a real photo or not a real photo. And just getting that information out to the public. Of course, the public doesn't have that tool. So as we already know with AI, you can't tell what's real and not real. So they just want to confuse, wear out people. People really don't give a care. People really don't care. I'm going to say it again. People really don't care enough to find the truth. They would rather let these things happen to human trafficked people, including children, including murder, and apparently including even eating the children. Again, things that apparently have been going on for a long time to a particular people who never got along with other people and were doing atrocious things, which is why they were exiled and banished from Europe for 300 years, which is why they had to be policed after being in the Pale of Settlement after that for 200 years, why they were kicked out of 109 different countries in the past 2,000 years. And let's go beyond that. 500 years before Jesus, they were taken into captivity in Babylon, called Baghdad. They were taken into captivity in Egypt. They made a movie. So it's 3,000 years. I don't even want to begin with the word Hebrew, which apparently means bandit. Bandits. These people are bandits. Plus they do horrible things. Behind slave trafficking, pirate ships, money advisors to kings, starting wars to make money, again and again and again throughout history, assassinating U.S. presidents, many of them, to try to control the money. Even Abraham Lincoln wanted us to coin our own money. Boom. John Kennedy was creating the silver certificate. I have one of those silver certificates. It's a $1 bill backed by silver. Murdered John Kennedy. All right. The claims are fueling broader public distrust surrounding how federal agencies handled Epstein evidence, especially after years of missing footage, inconsistent disclosures, and unexplained filing problems. So are you buying it? Are you buying the fact that we didn't go to the moon after the Apollo launches because they lost all the technical drawings? Are you buying that too? Or the 1 or 2 week announcements, we're launching a rocket to circle the moon, Artemis. A 2 week announcement, 1 week announcement. And people will go, oh, well, Rick, I saw the rocket take off. Well, I saw a rocket take off a week earlier. What's the deal there? A lot of people are proving that was another hoax. Inside job, Mossad, same people, bringing down the Twin Towers. The same investment people own the towers. Apparently we're faulty. We're going to come down on their own, which was discovered with the bombing in the lobby, 1997 or something. So, you know, when you have a fire in your house, you can't get an occupancy permit to go back in and live there until you get a fire inspection. When you have a bombing in the lobby of a Twin Tower, of course they have to have inspections. You know, are the Twin Towers still stable? You know, they've been a bombing in the lobby. And when they found out that, no, they're not stable, you got problems. These buildings are going to come down on their own because of faulty design and faulty construction. They blame it now on asbestos and stuff like that. But it was bigger than that. I remember reading the Popular Science magazine article talking about the interior structural design being a brand new concept. I've never been able to find that Popular Science magazine article. But I remember reading it. I have an uncanny memory. I remember I was working at an aerospace company, so I was technically inclined anyways. All right. Next page here. Just gotta ramble on for a while and use up my time here. Howard Lutnick and Cantor Fitzgerald pulled into the new Epstein scrutiny. A major Mother Jones investigation revealed years of continued contact between Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Jeffrey Epstein after Jeffrey Epstein's 2008 conviction. So they were carrying on business as usual after his conviction in 2008. Newly surfaced emails, invitations, investment discussions, family travel coordination involving Little St. James, people going to his island, are intensifying calls for congressional scrutiny, adding yet another major financial institution to the growing map of Epstein-connected elite networks. The entire system of the world is under these people's control. Remember, in these files, Epstein worked for the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds were behind murdering a half a dozen presidents in the 17 and 1800s, murdering them. It's well documented. I've been reading the book. A half a dozen presidents. Boom, boom, boom. It's just, the chain goes all the way back. British intelligence and royal circles face new questions. So this goes all the way connected with the Rothschilds, who apparently were connected with the British and received a document called the Balfour Agreement from Lord Balfour of Britain, to Mr. Rothschilds in 1913 or 1914 during World War I, because British was losing the war. So the Jews of the world, the Rothschilds, said, hey, give us Israel and we'll help you win the war with the United States. We just got Woodrow Wilson elected because we've been shipping Yiddish Jews from Ukraine area into America in the late 1700s and early 1800s and early 1900s, because Woodrow Wilson was elected in 1912 to beef up the Democratic Party. And it got so bad that Henry Ford, the automaker, bought a newspaper, the Dearborn Independent, and was writing articles exposing all this. And then they were accusing him of being an anti-Semite when he was correctly observing what he was observing. The complete takeover of the United States by these people also called the Jewish Mafia from the Ukraine area, called the Pale of Settlement, where they were banished to after being exiled in Europe for 300 years. Again, these are facts. You can look it up in any encyclopedia, any search, a million book probably. I've been at this research 21 years. So I know all this stuff, and I can see the big picture now. It's too clear. So British intelligence, royal circles, and this has been coming out in the news. Again, this isn't to be taken lightly. This is horrible stuff. These people control everything. They want you to pretend this is not a big issue and to just carry on. Carry on, folks. Carry on. Well, they're building these 62-acre AI centers in Utah. 62 acres. What are they going to be used for? If you contemplate that, it'll boggle the mind. And they got a building, what? Thousands of them in the United States alone. They are built, and they refuse to talk about it. When President Trump first took office in early 2025, he surrounded himself with these folks like Thiel and announced they were building the big AI data center in Texas, a huge one with its own power plants. What the heck is going on here? This is no small thing, directly connected to the Epstein class of people, doing all these evil things, including murdering presidents in the 17 and 1800s. I don't even want to get into the 1900s, President Kennedy. Now you know why a lot of presidents probably go along. They don't want to be taken out. And a lot of politicians, senators, they've been attacked, they've been killed, representatives, and other people. The people who control the world, these people who have been banished and exiled, and the hierarchy, the bloodlines of the Illuminati, will stop at nothing to succeed, including murdering people. And a couple million children get disappeared every year. They use in their satanic, demonic rituals. Even Bohemian Grove in California, where they have been photographed and videoed throwing a baby into the fire. But then some people say, well, Rick, it was just an effigy. It was a fake baby. What the heck does it matter, real or fake baby? And just because you say it was a fake baby, when a couple million children are missing every year, it doesn't mean it's a fake baby. You don't have any evidence if it was or wasn't. The people who are naysayers. Then they're putting up archways of Baal and Moloch, which you can look up images, and they're feeding children for these monster demons to eat. They were doing sacrifices with the King Solomon's temple. That's what they want to resume. What part of this do people not get? You see what I'm saying here? This can't be thrown under the rug. New reporting tied to classified intelligence sharing allegations claims British authorities exchanged Epstein-related intelligence with the FBI years before public officials later claimed ignorance about the scale of the Epstein operations. So time after time, when decent officials got wind of this, people above them in power shut them down. It's the same thing with journalists, news reporters, on TV too. They get wind of this stuff, and they run to the editor or the one in charge and say, hey, I want to do a story on this. And maybe the editor will think, well, that's a good story. But then it gets to the higher-ups who control the show. Oh, no, we can't do that story. Sweep it under the rug. And they do. Easily identified doing for the past 300 years. And they're doing it today. They won't even talk about the data AI centers and the obvious plans that they told us that they're going to do to us. 15-minute cities, people not owning a vehicle. You've got to share a vehicle if you can even get one. And then you're going to be tied to some kind of digital implant in your body, and you have to be approved for every single transaction. What do you think the big data AI centers are going to be used for? To control everything. Even the asset management with State Street, Vanguard, BlackRock, buying up everything. You get to rent. That's it. The data AI management centers will make sure that who's ever renting it, enjoying a little bit of life, with some pleasures gifted to you, if you're real obedient, are complying, and if you deviate, you get terminated. You can't get into your own rented residence, or even use a shared vehicle, or walk into a grocery store and get food. They're already doing that if you don't have the right biometric ID. Scan your eye, scan your fingerprint. I get on the PayPal. I go to log in. They said, fill out the rest of the information to enter your biometric fingerprint. There's no way to opt out. So I just type in paypal.com again, really quick, and it logs in again and it overrides that. For how long? Do you understand what I just said? I go to log in, my password, my user ID. It now gives me an option for biometric filling out this application and my fingerprint so I can log in the future. And I can't find any way to opt out of it. So I have to kind of just pretend it's not there and go up in the URL and type in paypal.com and hit the return button. And when it reloads again, it lets me in. So I got around it for now. It's going to be that way on everything. It already is. You want to get into your other things that you log into? They got to ping your phone. What if you don't have a phone? Right now, your phone is something you carry instead of the implant that'll be in your body. You're carrying around your own tracking system right now. But that won't be good enough because people finally, if they get wind of it, they can trash it. No, it's got to be inside you. And if there's a bunch of people walking on a sidewalk, there'll be all these detectors, and anybody who doesn't have a flashing recognition signal, like we've seen in some of the movies, beep, 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 and the drones will be coming after you. Robocops maybe tackling you. You're the arch enemy. Not these people who are abducting children and sex with infants and eating them and murdering and starting wars. They're the righteous ones. You're not an obedient, happy slave, so you're the criminal. Do you get it? That's the way it looks like it's going to be. A completely insane reality. And when you think about a half a dozen presidents, Rick, after 1776, up until the 1800s, and I've gone over this in previous books, murdered. Direct evidence to the denial of the Rothschilds controlling United States money supply. Taking action, not approving a renewal of their corporation. Boom, you're dead. Presidents. I can't emphasize it enough. I'm going to make part 2 on that book and read you all the gory details. Same people. So when I take back to the 1700s and the murder of a half a dozen presidents, and the 1800s and the Civil War, 1863, after Karl Marx writes the Communist Manifesto in 1848, then they had all kinds of civil wars in the Pale of Settlement, where the Jews were exiled and banished too, from Poland down to Ukraine. So they had civil wars there, so they were crying into the ears of the politicians in the United States, oh, we got to save those Jewish people in the Pale of Settlement. You got the Russian country policing them. And Germany was giving them safe refuge, actually. And they were happy there. And the German people weren't upset, even though they were prospering and taking over. Hadn't reached that point yet. But it did. When they had the trials and hearings after World War I, and it came out that the Jews, lawyers were saying, well, we want Palestine now, like the promises you made us. The Germans realized that they had been betrayed by the very people they were welcoming into their country, who were fleeing the Pale of Settlement and the Russian police. Germany was betrayed in World War I. Germany didn't want World War I. Britain wanted World War I. But who controlled Britain? That would be the Rothschilds. They're the ones who wanted to control the German countries. They needed World War I, World War II to topple all the hierarchy. The elite families and the government and the religious institutions and any other educated family groups. Colleges, universities. And they were looting all the banks during the war. Both wars, all wars. After they had a coup in Ukraine in 2014, the day after the coup when the president fled, 38 tons of gold from Ukraine were flown out of the country. I bet the Ukraine people are not told about that. They were looted and deluded with social media to help overthrow their own president. All this is connected to the Jeffrey Epstein files. Because Jeffrey Epstein is just one of these diabolical evil characters in a long string of them. That Seville guy, prior to Epstein, is another Jeffrey Epstein, Seville, in Britain. And then in Australia, the judge had to seal the records on all the human trafficking and pedophilia, because he said if the records were made public, the citizens of Australia would lose confidence in the government. So the judge itself had to cover up all the pedophilia and human trafficking in Ukraine. I mean, Australia. And then in Britain, Seville, same thing. And there were many others. The Franklin cover-up, Pizzagate. These people are behind all of this all along. That's why they were run out of different countries for 3,000 years. Their philosophy, their religion is incompatible with the rest of us. Well, finally, feels like we might get a little rain. All right, let me see if I can get some more of this video done before the noise gets too crazy with lightning. So they were getting information about the Epstein operations, but it was all squelched. Simultaneously, investigations into Prince Andrew, linked circles revealed warnings of alleged ignored about David Stern, and Epstein associated, connected with the elite royal charities and networking initiatives operating inside Windsor-connected institution. So this would be the royal family, the Windsor family, the king and queen. They're in on this evil stuff. The Zorro Ranch investigation expands beyond the architecture. So apparently, there's a lot of diabolical connections to the ranch that Jeffrey Epstein had in New Mexico. One of the most controversial investigations published this week tied Epstein's New Mexico Zorro Ranch to architects, intelligence-linked infrastructure theories, communication systems, Cold War-era defense-related overlaps. While many conclusions remain debated, the reporting significantly expanded public attention on New Mexico's role within the broader Epstein operation and renewed scrutiny towards why federal investigations there appeared so limited for years. So we can say without a doubt that state governments, federal governments, banking official, high-level elite wealthy families were all in on this and all covering it up and all had connections operating against the interests of the citizens of the United States. And they still do. Epstein Wiki launches reverse image search tool. Epstein Wiki and Epstein Data officially launched a new reverse image verification tool designed to help researchers identify fake Epstein-related images, manipulated celebrity photos, recycled content, and AI-generated misinformation. So they want you to believe in nothing. The release comes as social media platforms continue drowning in fabricated Epstein content designed to confuse investigations and exploit public outrage for clicks or engagement. So they want you to think people are all fabricating all this stuff so they can get more clicks on their or engagements or readers of their articles. Do you believe that? Well, I had to take a break. Lightning and rain was too much. So while I was on break, I decided to go look up something. And this is the book I've been reading. A History of Central Banking and the Enslavement of Mankind. So while I'm studying the Epstein files, every day I've been reading a little bit more of this book. And I can see the parallels. I'm going to read one page from the book. There's President Garfield being assassinated. President James Abram Garfield Wright was gunned down by a lone assassin, Charles Gootney, at the main railway station in Washington, 2 July 1881. 1881. Why was the President of the United States gunned down? Whoever controls the volume of money in any country is absolute master of all industry and commerce. And people like Jeffrey Epstein and his sexual satanic shenanigans involving children, even eating them, involving all kinds of elites and politicians whose names and pictures we have seen that you're not supposed to believe anymore because somebody might have faked them, AI or something. So I do believe a lot of the leaders are blackmailed into compliance at this critical time in history. There's a big war going on right now. And when you realize that the entire system is very easily controlled, especially if you have a bunch of people like Jeffrey Epstein and Palantir, Peter Thiel, and all the others, and Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Obama, all of them. Anybody in any power, anywhere, right now is with them. Citizens of the world, beware. Easily controlled, one way or another, by a few powerful men at the top. You will not have to be told how periods of inflation and depression originate. So when they crash the economic system, and they will, under the guise of an alien invasion or World War III or something, stock market crash, I don't know. It will have been planned. Repeat, it will have been planned. Two weeks later, Garfield was gunned down by a lone assassin, Charles Goodney, who had a grievance for not having received a diplomatic posting. Garfield did not die immediately, but as a result of improper medical care. Oh yeah. Little assisted suicide there. Assisted death. Like Charlie Kirk. Jeffrey Epstein, who probably really didn't get killed. Garfield did not die immediately, but as a result of improper medical care, quite possibly done so deliberately, lingered on until his death on 19 September 1881. At his trial, the hidden hand of Rothschilds was revealed when Goodney claimed that important men in Europe put him up to the task. Remember, Jeffrey Epstein worked for the Rothschilds. 12,000 plus times in the Epstein files, and all the other people, the royal family and everything. President Donald Trump works for them. He converted to Judaism. He was a Kabbalah student. Who do you think financed all his crazy things into casinos, etc.? And the elites, the Rothschilds families members, had promised to protect him if he were caught. The 1907 panic had the worst effects. In early 1907, Jacob Schiff, CEO of Kuhn, Loeb and Company, warned that unless we have a central bank with adequate control of credit resources, this country is going to undergo the most severe, far-reaching money panic in history. In October of that year, J.P. Morgan, another Rothschilds frontman, set the panic in motion by circulating rumors that its rival, Knickerbocker Bank and Trust Company, was insolvent. So I could go on and on about the other presidents, including Abraham Lincoln. That's the 17, 18, and 1900s. 300 years. This is 2026. So when I'm reading these Jeffrey Epstein files, you have to have that in your memory bank about all the other stuff the same families have been involved in. That I've made 500, 600 more videos on that one topic from books, magazine, and current events, etc. So you got the British intelligence, royal circles. You got the Zorro Ranch involving state government, CIA, Cold War, Epstein Wiki launches reverse image search. They want you to believe all photos are suspect. The release comes as social media platforms continue drowning in fabricated Epstein content designed to confuse investigations and exploit public outrage for clicks and engagement. Do you believe that? That there are some people actually faking photos to get more clicks? Or do you believe presidents of the United States were killed so they can control the money? And isn't the biggest control of the whole world and all money imminent in our future? Cashless, digital controlled prison. Besides murdering all those presidents and having all those wars, there's nothing they won't do to accomplish their mission. You can say this is a diabolical, demonic, spiritual thing for them, and it is. Or you can say, I don't believe that, Rick. There's no such thing as the devil. Well, then you got to believe that these evil humans do believe. And the things they've done to children need to be accounted for, and it needs to stop. The children are continuing to disappear. The sacrifices and the satanic rituals are continuing every day, all over the world. Epstein Wiki just declared war on fake Epstein photos. And honestly, it was about time. You see, whoever wrote this, so they give you a little bit of a truth, and then they try to suggest that, maybe we should be doing that. So they got this software you can plug a photo into, and it's going to tell you whether it's a real photo or fabricated, fake. But wait a minute, who's controlling the software? Who wrote the software? You didn't write the software. I didn't write the software. How are you going to trust the software? Can you trust anything? And the answer is no. They're trying to cover their butts, their arses. Epstein Wiki has officially launched a new reverse image software partnership. And not only that, in this article, in 3 pages, they're kind of redundant on that topic, which is another pattern of kind of mind control. They tell you about it, then they'll go on with something else. They'll tell you about it again, go on with something else, tell you about it again. Pretty soon you're going to be convinced. And you got some knucklehead like me trying to wake you up from your hypnotism, your mesmerization, your mind control. They know what they're doing. The tool arrives as AI-generated fake images, recycled celebrity photos, deliberately misleading social media posts, continuing flooding the internet during the ongoing Epstein Files Transparency Act fallout. So they really do want this whole issue to go away. And I thought, well, Rick, you better make a video and put your heart and soul into the video. Show the connections. Going back from leaving the Pale of Settlement, Poland down to Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, Georgia, that whole corridor called the Pale of Settlement. You can look it up on Wiki or anywhere. Pale of Settlement. Pale, like a pale horse. That's where they gathered after being exiled and banished for 300 years. Not 30 years, not 3 years. 300 years. Because of the same shenanigans and incompatibility with the synagogue of Satan rituals and involving children. These same people started the swingers and wife swapping, and they realized that if they did these evil things, they attracted demonic forces, and then they could make deals with the demonic forces for power, and maybe where missing treasure is or gold, and they can find it and start a religion like the Mormons. That's exactly what happened. John Smith, is that his name? Into the occult. Discovered some gold and stuff like that. Starts a religion. A bunch of followers. Yeah, the people are going to follow the gold. And with a sister-like organization, with the Freemasons, the Masonic organization, the Mormons, and with the other groups, Jehovah's Witnesses, Theophist Society, Rosicrucian, Oddfellows, involving themselves in intelligence agencies all over the world. Police stations, cops, police. You can't be a senator, or representative, or president unless you come from these organizations. And President John Henry wrote a book. I made a book review on it, Letters on Freemasonry, that they vowed never to let anybody outside their group in powerful political positions again. And that was in the late 1700s. Or maybe middle 1700s. Probably late. John Adams, president. Letters on Freemasonry. You can look it up. It comes clean. This country was founded by two groups. The Freemasonic Illuminati banksters, of course. Rothschilds. Rockefellers. Morgan, Schiffs. And Christians. It's been a battle all the way. So it goes on and on about the new tool for checking if a photo is fake or not, is attempting to push the conversation back towards actual verification, documented sourcing, evidence-based research, instead of viral nonsense engineered to confuse people and poison legitimate investigative work. Yeah, you have to do legitimate investigative work like I've done, book reviews from famous authors, and I get terminated in 2018, 2019, from YouTube, shut down doing live streams in 2018, strikes against me, and short punishments in 2018, actual shutting me down, taking my channel away in 2019, and giving it back to me in 2025. There's got to be a diabolical purpose for that. Britain claims nobody knew about Epstein, while classified intelligence files say otherwise. So you get on the phone, you're an investigator or FBI agent or police or state's attorney here in the United States, you're on the phone to the British. Oh, we know nothing about the Jeffrey Epstein files or the Jeffrey Epstein accusations. We know nothing. By the way, we know nothing about Seville either. Now that he's dead, he was catering to all these elites, bringing all these children and men and women and everything. Seville. A sweeping investigation by Sayer J. I've watched videos by Sayer J. Sayerji, is throwing gasoline directly into a growing political fire surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's British connections by alleging that the United Kingdom's National Crime Agency, financial intelligence units, and embassy officials were actively sharing classified Epstein-related intelligence with the FBI years before British leaders later claimed ignorance. So what they say is lies. What our leaders say is lies. If you're not going to believe that, stop watching this video. You are too far gone. You will never wake up. And you'll get in line when they declare the next hantavirus scam. Junta. It's just too much. The article centers on newly released Epstein File Transparency Act, documents that reportedly showed former intelligence coordination between British and American authorities involving Epstein's financial network, social contacts, and UK-linked operations dating back as far as 2020. But we know nothing. We know nothing. Talk to the Queen. We know nothing. Talk to the King. We know nothing. Talk to MI16. We know nothing. Talk to the Prince Andrew. Oh, I know nothing. Not involved. Oh, now you caught me. The reporting specifically targets British Prime Minister Karl Starmer's public defense that none of us knew the full extent of Epstein's network, arguing the documents instead show institutional awareness existed across multiple levels of British government and law enforcement. They lie. The piece also references intelligence sharing involving suspicious financial activity reports, embassy communications, coordination with child exploration investigations. While some conclusions in the article remain heavily interpretive and politically charged, the broader revelation feeding public outrage is the same pattern appearing across country after country. Same pattern appearing after country in the Epstein scandal. And he's the one who got caught. There are thousands, if not a million, others out there operating today. These people are not going to stop their pleasing their demon deities and give up their political power, just like they all worked in cahoots during the 2020 declared pandemic when COVID was rising, but colds and flus fell off the chart. Let me see if I can say it again. If you looked at the statistics, the colds and flus were disappearing. At the same time, coronaviruses were appearing. So wait a minute, everybody's body decided not to get a cold or a flu, but got the coronavirus. Or did it just reclassify it? Aha! Maybe you're onto something there, Rick. Which people have already pointed out in charts. No colds, no flus, nobody. Coronavirus goes up. No dying from anything else. Death rates all attributed to COVID. And doctors even receiving money. And who's behind all the money? The Rothschilds. Who's behind Jeffrey Epstein? The Rothschilds. Who's behind creating Palestine, Israel and Palestine? The Rothschilds. Who murdered Garfield, Abraham Lincoln, and many other presidents and leaders? The Rothschilds and other members of the elite family, which the Bushes are a member, the Skull and Bones. The Kennedy families mentioned in the bloodlines of the Illuminati, Fritz Springmeyers. The DuPont family, Morgan family, the Kellogg family, and you're buying a cereal for your kids. You know they're poisoning everything. Many shots into children, 30, 40 shots into infants. Then they get lifelong diseases. Autism. Feeding the medical establishment that they controlled when they destroyed herbal medicine and homeopathic medicine. Natural medicine. It's all connected to the same thing with the same purpose. And if you think for 1 second that they're going to cease and desist and go away, absolutely wrong. Whatever's planned is coming. And these data centers are being announced, being built without announcements. Some of the communities are crying out in outrage. They are not being listened to. They're in an emergency response situation right now. They got to get that control mechanism in place to manage all their assets. That's everything you own and you and your children and your children's children. This is so much bigger than you or I. And get rid of the elderly. And then get rid of unwanted people. Maybe somebody's not desirable looking enough to be a sex slave. Off with their head. Maybe people don't want to give up Christianity. Off with their head. Maybe people are just too intelligent and start asking questions. Off with their head. You think I'm kidding? Look what's going on in the Middle East. It's already happening in Ukraine with the Rothschilds behind the scenes, social media, having the president who was beloved by everybody, who wanted to get along with Russia and Israel and the United States and Europe. He had plans and the people loved him. Gotta go. Like Garfield, like Lincoln, like many others in that report, which I will make another book of you. Powerful institutions often had pieces of the puzzle, warning signs existing for years, and the public is now being asked to believe nobody connected the dots while classified reports quickly circulated behind closed doors. Do you believe that for 1 second? They have all the information on you or I computerized right now. It's called the Beast computer. I'm not kidding. That's the name of the computer for years. The Beast computer system. The Beast. The 666 computer system. And the word computer in a numerology calculator is 666. Vaccination is 666. New York, the Big Apple, 666. Do I need to point out why there's 666? Monsanto, genetically modified food, 666. Santa Claus, guy with magic getting into the house after children, 666. And on and on and on, these nefarious words. Because that words are all vibrations, they have power. There's a reason. They beautified the languages in the 1600s, 1700s with John Dee and Shakespeare-like people, Kevin Bacon. So why would they be beautifying the languages? They were fine-tuning them like a guitar. They knew that numerology had power. So they all had to become respelled, calling them beautification, they always lie. So they were respelled to give them vibrational power. Letters have vibrational power, different letters. They say the Hebrew language is, each letter is part of magic. So they turned the rest of the languages into magic by spelling certain words that equal to a certain numerological vibration. It's all magic. Supernatural. However you want to believe it. At this point, the phrase "nobody knew" is starting to sound like a defense, and less like a defense, and more like an international slogan of elite damage control. And they always use slogans. Black Lives Matter, Gay Pride Parade, women's rights. It's always slogans. Pay attention. Don't be stupid and believe this stuff. Nobody knew nothing. They know everything about you. You do one small thing, they're going to make an example of you. And they can do all kinds of horrific things, and they get pardoned. They might get prosecuted to appease the public, but then right after that, they'll pardon these people. And like I said, they keep repeating that and repeating these different articles so that people will read it. I could see, I said, I just read about that in this report. Next page. The new Epstein suicide note is convincing even skeptics. That changes everything. So now they're trying to convince you, even the skeptics are now convinced. Even though the article does not dismiss the endless failures, contradictions, and suspicious circumstances surrounding the case, including broken cameras, sleeping guards, missing records, questions about Epstein's injuries. Instead, it argues that both things may be true at once. So the whole system may be just corrupt and stupid, but he actually wrote the letter and killed himself. Even though the records were falsified, cameras were broken. Are you buying that? It's always this way. And honestly, that possibility may frustrate people, even more because the public spent years trapped between two extreme narratives. While the real story may simply be that America's elite prison and justice systems were so dysfunctional, compromised, and chaotic that nobody trusts anything they say anymore. So it's pretty obvious what our article here is trying to convey to whoever's reading it. Then the Zorro Ranch story just escalated into something way bigger than a mansion. Investigative journalist Elisa Rodriguez has published one of the most explosive and controversial Epstein interrogations yet, tracing the architectural history of Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch compound through elite New York architects. So here's Jeffrey Epstein having this compound built out in the desert with elite New York architects, Cold War intelligence networks, nuclear research connections. Newly identified federal documents record ties to the ranch design. So the intelligence and the military all had their hand in this. And of course they had to blackmail all the politicians and Hollywood stars and a bunch of other people. Hey, hop on the plane, come down to St. James Island. We got a little treat for you. Yeah, 6-year-old little treat. 5-year-old little treat. 3-year-old little treat you can eat. That's what the Jeffrey Epstein files are saying. They even ate children. Do you understand how frustrating this is? I can say this in the camera. I can publish it. A couple hundred people, so the clicks say, watched it. 5 comments, 10 comments, maybe. More than 10,000 subscribers. How can that be? You think AI is scrutinizing it, steering it away from people? And I get people emailing me or commenting, oh, it wouldn't play for me. Then I go try it and it's playing. So I do know they're policing certain internet content in certain places. People tell me in some countries they can't watch my videos. I'm not getting misinformation out there. I'm not advocating any kind of violence. I'm a lover of humanity and want to see us escape this insanity that's engulfed the whole world and intends to finish capturing the whole world. The report identifies the architecture firm of Cooper Robinson as the designers behind Epstein's sprawling New Mexico estate, connects the firm's founders to architect Philip Johnson, whose documented past and involvement with Nazi political circles and later work on Israeli Sequel nuclear facility becomes major focus of the piece. So people that worked on Israeli nuclear facility, involvement with Nazi political circles, are helping Jeffrey build this sprawling estate. The article also highlights architectural plans showing unusual large underground mechanical spaces. I have underground spaces on Zorro Ranch. Wonder what goes on down there. Bring the little kids down below. Got some people flying in from the Capitol. Give them a little treat. Maybe we'll allow them to murder a little child while we film it. Then we have a snuff film. Then we really can blackmail them. Some of these maniacs and insane psychopathic people in Washington, D.C., you don't think they're into that stuff? It's been exposed again and again. Snuff films. Filming the stuff they do with children and women and men. Then sending people the 8-tracks or the CDs. We got you on camera. What? You're not going to agree and vote the way we tell you and do what we tell you and turn traitor on the citizens? What? We'll just release these to the public. And you see the panic-stricken faces. And they want to comply. And throw the rest of us under the bus. Which they have. And which they intend to do. Highlight architectural plans showing unusually large underground mechanical spaces, specialty interior materials, post-construction slab alteration, slab alterations after the manufacturing of the facility. I suppose they had to bury some bodies. Slab alterations, sledgehammers, jackhammers. Break up the slab, we're going to pour a new slab. Why would you do that? Only one thing I can think of. Communication infrastructure tied to Sandia Crest. Repeated overlaps between Epstein's New Mexico operations and figures linked to intelligence, defense contracting, nuclear research environments. Valdez Rodriguez argues the ranch may have functioned as an infrastructure for intelligence gathering. Intelligence gathering, yeah. Blackmailing movie stars, rock stars, politicians, wealthy people. We all know their names. They went on this plane. It's like Bill Gates. Friends with Peter Thiel, Donald Trump. And so many more. Compromise operations rather than merely a private residence. Though many of the broader conclusions remain interpretive and heavily debated, what makes the article so unsettling is not just the theory itself, it's the sheer amount of documentation, names, federal file references, architectural plans, overlapping power networks piled onto one place. At this point, the Epstein story feels like a scandal, less like a scandal, and more like somebody actually pulled a loose thread on America's elite history, and the entire wall is starting to collapse behind it. So what you think so far? Any of this get you emotionally charged? Where you're concerned and you'd like to do something to stop this? You know, maybe like write a letter to your congressman. You know, if you go to church, talk to your preacher, your priest, or whatever. Talk to your neighbors. Get other people to watch this video. Go to the different sources. And the Epstein files are online, and you can read all these other people's reports. You don't have to read mine. You don't have to listen to me. What is it going to take for the public to say this is not going to be tolerated? Feeding opioids to the young people everywhere. Getting black people to be their drug dealers. Then throwing them under the bus and filling the prisons up. And claiming the rest of us are racist because there's more black people than white people in the prisons. Well, these elites knew the black people would take all that money and do it. They created situations so they would win that position. They ostracized them. They own the companies, the factories, the promotions. Not us. We didn't do it, but they want everybody to believe. Christian people are all haters. White people are all haters. Racists. When it's never been us. We weren't behind the slave trafficking from Africa. It was these same people who were exiled and banished from Europe for 300 years. They were behind the trafficking of Africans into America, slavery. And the elite who were running this country even back then, they were all Freemasons, Synagogue of Satan, anti-Christians. President John Adams' Letters on Freemasonry explains it all. I made videos on that book. And so many other books that explain all this stuff. The Epstein AI money trail is starting to look like a tax fraud fever dream. A jaw-dropping investigation from Sue Sellers' Substack is now connecting Jeffrey Epstein's money to artificial intelligence researcher Ben Gorzetz, the transhumanist nonprofit Humanity Plus, more than $1 million in Hong Kong public grant funding. According to the reporting, Epstein allegedly funneled money through his shell company, Enhanced Education. They always name these things so they sound good. Enhanced Education. Which transferred funds from the Gortez private AI company, Novamente, to satisfy matching fund requirements for Hong Kong government research grants. The article points to emails discussing funneling money. So Jeffrey Epstein emails are discussing funneling money into AI, into the overthrow of the Ukraine president in 2014. While in Israel, they're calling Ukraine heavenly Jerusalem. Well, many of us know most of the people calling themselves Jews, genetically, like I would say, I'm Irish and German. You might say, if you're watching this, I'm French, Rick, or I'm from Japan, Rick, or I'm from Mexico, Rick, or I'm a Native American, Rick. But so these people who call themselves Jews, most of them are called Ashkenazi, which means they're Khazarians. Between Russia and Germany, now called Ukraine, and the Israeli newspapers are calling Ukraine heavenly Jerusalem. So they want their country back from years ago, 1,300 years ago, because now they control the world through the Rothschild banking Synagogue of Satan elite group who do all these disturbing things to all kinds of humans and animals and the land. Deception, fake moon launches, fake climate change threats, fake pandemic threats, fake economic collapses. And it's just endless. It keeps on going. And the more the people wake up, the bigger the distractions have to be. Now the biggest one of all is probably going to be, because they like to continue to top things they've done before. Oh, we got away with that 911 thing. Let's see if we can get away with 2020 worldwide lockdown. Let's see if we can get away with Iran has a nuclear threat. Let's see if we can get away with an alien invasion. The stupid humans out there will believe anything we tell them. We're sending a rocket to the moon next week. No preparation, no training, no announcement, no preparing everybody for everything. You don't need it. They got Hollywood. All right. So you're connecting Jeffrey Epstein, Rothschilds, the banking system, New World Order, AI, data centers. Whether Epstein's cash was effectively converted into publicly backed international AI funding. So the data centers are a big component of this whole thing. They have to build those thousands of huge facilities everywhere. Asset management. You're one of the assets. Your children are the asset. Your dog, your cat is the asset. Your goldfish is the asset. Your parrot is the asset. The food on your table is one of their assets. Your house is their asset. The money in the bank is their asset. And you're going to be given a receipt and a digital credit when you go down and get your injection for the mark of the beast. You are their asset. This is a beyond belief conversation. Yay or nay? And again, if anybody disagrees with me, I'm actually pleading. Point out the error of my ways. Tell me. How many times do I say this in videos? Almost every time. Do I ever get anybody pointing something out that it is incorrect? I would acknowledge it. I wouldn't take it away from the comment section. I take away stupid, foolish things people say. Somebody made an accusation and called somebody a FK wit. I deleted it. I mean, why do we have to have that language? You FK wit, nitwit, or whatever. And other stupid things. And AI could be doing that, including I make a whole bunch of money working from home for goodjobs.com or something. 2 or 3, 4 times in every one of my videos. I got to go delete every one of those. It causes a bit of agitation. You don't think that's intentional? They're going to continue to agitate us and make things more difficult. And more crazy weather, droughts, storms, hurricanes, dumping more toxins in the air, people dying, gasping for air, prices going up. And at some point, the straw that breaks the camel's back, when this starts to ripple through society and businesses stop bringing in more and more money and more storefronts closing in downtown areas, you will notice, and it will have been planned. But you won't do anything about the people who planned it. You'll go target the people they tell you that are resisting us creating this golden age utopia. We're you slave and we masters, and we're going to give you a little bit of an allowance if you behave. Would you even want to live like that? I wouldn't. The reporting also claims Gorzitz continued soliciting Epstein money, even after acknowledging Epstein's criminal conduct, which adds yet another ugly layer to the now endless pile of everybody knew but kept cashing the checks anyways, stories surrounding the Epstein network, and they're doing the same thing right now. A lot of people know what's going on, but they're still collecting the checks. They'll still throw the rest of us under the bus in a heartbeat. You know, your local city council, the mayor, the police chief. A lot of the good people have been replaced. It's called replacement theory. Go look it up. They've been doing it for a long time. They replaced the generals. They replaced the admirals. Any intelligence agents in the FBI or CIA, if they're a decent person. And there have been some that came out and confessed and wrote books. And then they get killed. Michael Rupert, one of them. Bill Cooper, killed in his driveway. On and on and on. Presidents killed many of them to get control of America's banking supply. He who controls the money controls the country. Because you control the politicians. They will create laws to police the people. And when they make a law saying if you say anything about these people, it's a hate crime, and you'll go to prison. So you won't even be able to talk about the people who are stealing your children for sex and possibly eating them. Look up Illuminati parties where they have a human naked person in the form of a cake. Well, they're all dressed up in masks, grotesque masks, eating parts of the human. Think about it for a minute. What you gonna have, a finger? Or something a little bit more interesting? Think about that. What would cause everybody to stand up and take a notice of you. What part of that human would you cut off and put on your plate? Think about that. They're laughing and mocking us 24/7. They're laughing and mocking us. Henry Ford, the automaker, bought a newspaper and told about all the laughing and mocking when they're bringing over the Yiddish mafia from Ukraine and financing them, and they were buying up America, speaking in Yiddish and singing songs that were insulting. You had to be able to speak English to understand they were mocking and laughing, even at you in movie theaters. They're sitting there saying how stupid you are in a movie theater, and you think they're just singing a song. Henry Ford, Dearborn Independent. There's a 4-volume set of books you get fairly cheap. And he gives you story after story after story, buying up Tennessee liquor businesses, and then putting toxins or poisons and stuff to dilute it so they can make more out of what they had, to sell more of the poisoned hooch, whiskey, gin, whatever, to you. What did they have to do after all the people got sick? Prohibition. They had to ban alcohol. Got out of control. Do you know this stuff? Opioids. Where do you think opioids come from? They're given to the children. I'm going to try to wrap up this video. I can tell I only went through 6 pages out of about 30. I'll have to make another video tomorrow and try to finish these documents. At this point, the Epstein scandal no longer looks confined to trafficking, blackmail, or elite social circles. It increasingly resembles a sprawling ecosystem where dirty money, steeped in science, academic, nonprofits, finance, politics, and technology, while institutions either look other way or conveniently forget how oversight is supposed to work. All right, it's Sunday today, May 10th. We finally got some rain here in Florida, experiencing a drought, crazy weather. While I've been videoing the insane sky spraying in the last video I just published, it's an insane amount of stuff they're dumping up there. Combine that with electromagnetic, then there's a newspaper article about the upcoming warming of El Nino and how they can predict more chaotic weather coming soon. And I was reading the article, it's in these documents right here, and I'm saying to myself, liar, liar. You're controlling the weather. You're publishing it and blaming it on El Nino so the public out there will believe it. And guess what? Even though they can see all the dimming of the sun, sprayed stuff blocking the sun, they still won't acknowledge the weather's being controlled. It's just almost unbelievable. They won't ask questions. Who do you think's bringing in the opioids? If it were you or I, with the surveillance system and the trafficking, if they wanted to stop it, it would be stopped. They don't want to stop it. Putting all these different mRNA technologies even into your vegetables and other food at the grocery store. When you eat some lettuce, you're going to get vaccinated at the same time. Vaccinated with what? And what is a vaccination? What is a virus? I believe it's just another bacterial weapon, a biological weapon. But they can't call it a biological weapon. Let's call it a virus. Nobody knows what a virus is. You caught a virus. You caught a biological weapon. You caught a poison or a toxin. Or a recreated mycoplasma. You can go look up pictures on your computer. Bacteria. thousands of shaped bacteria, different kinds of very molecular animals. That's all they are. Round ones, rectangular ones, hairy ones, bacteria. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. Rick Miracle reporting. If you like my videos, consider making a donation. Send the links to other people. Download a copy of my videos.